Hi, everybody. David Lough, president of Downtown Sarasota Condo Association. Happy to welcome everybody on a sunny October 1st, and what a difference a year has made so far, touch wood. So let's get started. First, to declare a quorum, I think we have Peter Blanton and should have Patrick Gannon on Zoom. Bob, everybody's here except Judy and Jamie, but they should be along shortly, and we have a quorum. So with that said, the minutes, circulated the minutes the other day. Were there any edits or changes to that? We often have changes. I'm kidding. But are there any edits or changes to that? If not, may I have a motion to adopt the minutes? Okay, Bob, and then a second, Ken Sheelan. So let's move ahead. One thing I wanted to do is introduce Commissioner Aaron Kutz, who is here. Thank you. And I believe Kelly Brown, president of CCNA, has just entered the room. So we appreciate that. And if you're on Zoom, would you mute if you're not speaking, please? That said, Clark, do you have a treasurer's report for us?
Treasurer's report that we have $4,984.61 in our checking account.
And about this time of year, we start to run on fumes, but this year's a little better.
Well, I saw a payment of $700 that I was trying to track down.
Okay.
I think a new associate member.
Okay, well, we'll have to talk about that. There's some breaking news. So with that said, I'm happy to introduce Dave Bullock, as we know, our interim city manager. I was mentioning to him before we started that inviting him to speak in October was purposeful, that I knew the budget would be adopted at that point, and we might know at least some more information, and that pressure, if you will, would be removed from Dave. I think you've all gotten to know him 7-8 months at this point, Dave?
The end of May. I showed up the end of May.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Dave is, some of you know, is former Longboat Key town manager, worked with the county and then the Economic Development Corporation. What Dave and I have agreed, and I think I've shared with some of you, is he'll keep his remarks relatively brief, to what he feels comfortable with. And then the way I'm seeing this is a kind of a conversation with him, maybe even two ways. Sure. With that said, thanks for coming, Dave, and here you go.
Thank you. Am I on?
You're on.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and those on the screen. I'll try to face you all, but there may be an art that is greater than my agility. My name is Dave Bullock. I'm the interim, capital I, interim city manager. I'll be here until the commission selects the permanent city manager. We're in the search process now. They've hired a search firm. I believe that person is coming in next week, I think, to interview commissioners and everybody either next week or the week after, and really get the search underway. I think this will be a very desirable job. I'm not the permanent. When this is finished, I ride off into the sunset again. And this will be a highly desirable job in the world of city county management in Florida and beyond. So I think there'll be a lot of good applicants, and I look forward to the city hiring a really good manager and handing off to her or him whatever those responsibilities are. And 6 months after that, everybody will forget I was ever here. So that would be the way it should be, because you'll be focused on the future. Just a couple things to mention. David suggested that now that our budget is over, and it is over, and you've all received your trim notice. So there was a slight tax increase, and it's a very simple reason. The city maintained a reserve of give or take $30 million for many years. And when the storms hit, we spent most of that reserve down. That's what it's for. It's like your rainy day fund, and we had our rainy day. So we spent most of that reserve down. It dropped below the lowest standard that we've adopted as a guidance. And now we're going to take a couple of years and build that back up. So all of the money from the additional millage that's on your city part of the tax bill will go into replenishing those reserves. If everything goes like we planned, which it never does, we should have those reserves handily built back up within 3 years, and the city commission gets to decide what it wants to do with the millage at that point. Just as a point of reference for those who think, yeah, government's going to lower the tax rate, that's likely. City commission lowered the tax rate twice in the last 5 years. So it does happen, and it happened here, and they'll have to make up their minds about that again. We have and will continue to apply for federal reimbursement for storm damage. We have no idea how that's going to turn out. Having been in the business here in Sarasota County for over 30 years, I can tell you that every single year, FEMA reimbursement was it was slow, but it was a guarantee. You got 75% of your eligible expenses back. I have no idea what's going to happen this year. FEMA's somewhat in disarray, and who knows? So we have planned to rebuild our reserves without FEMA reimbursement. If FEMA comes in and we get money reimbursed for the expenses, the eligible expenses we incurred, it will shoot our reserves up to an acceptable level sooner. So that was the basis for the budget and the tax increase that you've seen. On the median value house in the city of Sarasota, it's an $82 increase per year. So, you know, we tried to keep it as modest as we could. Money is important to everybody, and we have all income levels here. We tried to keep it. If you own $1 million home, it's a lot more than that. If you own a $100,000 home, it's less than that. But the median income, or the median, house value, it's about $82 a year just for the increase. And if you're ever wondering, when you get your tax bill, you get this long list of things. The city tax is about 20% of your total ad valorem taxes. That's what goes to the city of Sarasota. Most of it goes to the school district and then the county. So, you know, we play in that budget game with all the other jurisdictions who have taxing authority over our area. Some of the things that I'd like to talk about, and I'm going to make this short on David's recommendation. I'm happy to talk about some housing projects that we're involved in, some parking. We've had interesting discussions on the ability to cross US 41, especially at Boulevard of the Arts. You guys can talk about roundabouts. I personally love them. And having driven up and down 41 for 31 years, it has, other than the construction that's going on now, if you live to the north, it's never been faster with the roundabouts in. So that's my objective, unbiased opinion, having been driving up and down it all this time. Other things that I'm happy to talk about is a little bit about the Bay Runner and Transit and where we are with that. And I know David can't wait to talk about the multimodal impact fees, which is a riveting conversation that I would welcome. So I'm happy to answer questions, or David, however you would like me to do it.
Protocol is for our board members to primarily ask a question. That said, let me just kick off city priorities now that the budget is done. Talk to us about some of your, having been around 6 months or whatever it is, and, you know, gotten the lay of the land and heard all of it. What are some of your thoughts on priorities you see?
Sure. So first and foremost, we only serve one purpose. Government's here to make improvements in people's lives. The cynics among us may snicker at that, but for making an improvement in people's lives, we wouldn't exist. So every part of the city should be dedicated to somehow making the life of its residents better. Safety, we put a huge amount of money into public safety, and you as taxpayers, the majority of your taxes go into police and fire EMS protection. Fire EMS is handled through the county, police is handled by the city. It is by far the largest component of our budget. About 70% of what we do is people. We employ people to do things like the biggest department is police, and then we have public works. They pick up your garbage, they keep the streets moving. So keeping the wheels on government, and I don't say that in a totally generic term. Every department, everything we do is designed to make some improvement in the life of the community. So first priority is keep doing that fundamental work. The big areas of interest in the community and from the commission, once you get past that, is housing that workers can be here, affordable housing, attainable, whatever term you want to use, a place for people to live who work in this city. We spend a lot of time and a lot of effort thinking about arts, and we have some pretty cool stuff and we have some not so cool stuff that has happened over the past month or two around the arts. Some important lessons about who's in charge in the state of Florida, in the city. We got a clear lesson in who's in charge. And we're going to get more clear lessons about who's in charge, and we can get into that if you like. I will give you the sneak preview. The state is in charge. And that concludes my comments on who's in charge. But I mean, it is that clear, and we learned it. So, however, there's other things happening with the arts. Let's start with the park and all the stuff that's happening there, and the possibility of a new performing arts facility. The maintenance and the improvements into Van Wezel, the commission will put about $10 million in that, most of it from grants. We'll have to put some of our own money in, probably less than $3 million. For those of you who don't follow the Van Wezel, and by the way, in the year 23-24, 186,000 people went to the Van Wezel. I don't know how many people ever think about that. From Sarasota City and County, 75,000 people went to the Van Wezel. From the city, 25,000 people. So the biggest users of the Van Wezel are Sarasota County and Manatee County. That's where most of the people come from. We've taken the liberty to break it out by zip code, because everybody buys their tickets online now. So we know where they're coming from. And that's been interesting. The county from every zip code district, Sarasota County contributes thousands of people going to the Van Wezel. So it truly is a regional asset. So anyway, I throw that out there, just to know. We may mention that to the county commission as we start to talk to them about participating in the Performing Arts Center. So that's a lot of effort right now to try to get that in place. You know, sometimes it's not the building of a facility, it's the laying the foundation so that the building can get built or the facility can get built. And that's really the stage we're at with the Performing Arts Center. And I can expand on that to the extent that y'all are interested. And that's where we are with the affordable housing project right across from City Hall on First Street, that the City Commission bought some land there a little over a year ago now. And I think we're ready to, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, directly across First Street, the city purchased a little over an acre of land with a hole in the middle. We couldn't purchase that doggone credit union, but I think we have it corralled now, and we'll have that property under control shortly. So I'm optimistic about that project, and I'm happy to talk in more detail. That's focused on workforce housing right into downtown. So for those folks who work downtown, you know, there might be a place there to live if we can pull this deal together in a reasonable way.
That's great. And Ken, I know you may want to expand on the performing arts.
Dave, I'm chair of the DSCA Arts and Cultural Committee. I believe we're the only neighborhood association in the city that has such a committee. And so we do track what's going on in the arts. And in addition to that, I'm on the board of the Arts and Cultural Alliance of Sarasota County. And I'm very interested in the Performing Arts Hall. I have a degree in theater, and I love theater, and I know not only the design problems with Van Wezel, I'm very familiar with it, but also the environmental issues that are challenging it. I also know that a couple of weeks ago, a couple of the Renzo Piano people flew into town and met with perhaps you and perhaps the foundation. Can you fill us in, since things have gotten kind of quiet,
Right.
which is really unusual in this town. Can you fill us in on what's happening now,
Sure.
where we are with that process?
Sure. Sometimes the best work gets done when it's quiet. So the architects, some representatives came to town 2 weeks ago now. I met with them. We spent a day and a half together. Day and a half with architects is just riveting too. But anyway, they're very interesting people, highly skilled, and you have to appreciate the way their brains work. And of course, the foundation was there the entire time. They team with Sweet Sparkman Architects, who most of you know are local, highly competent architect company here in town, right downtown. So we went over some options because we had run, the foundation had brought a concept plan to the commission back in March. I think it was March. Can't remember. Anyway, and the commission could not approve that concept plan. The cost just did not work. You know, there's aspirations and there's budget, and those two have to meet. And sometimes it's a difficult journey to get them to meet. When your aspirations, it's the old saying, you have a champagne, you know, whatever, appetite and a beer budget. We had a little bit of that. So we had to work through that difference to try to bring those two things together. We're not quite there yet, but we made significant progress. So, you know, we're looking at different designs. Here's what I can tell you though. The facility will be primarily funded by the tax increment financing district, which is largely that downtown area. Some of you may have seen on a map that includes the Quay, the Rosemary district, a little bit north and south and a little bit east. And what that means is any growth in the tax base, so the revenue from property taxes, any growth from 2019 for the next 30 years can go into a fund to make improvements in the park. And that includes the possibility of a performing arts center. So there's a revenue source. That's the good news. That revenue source is split 50-50 between the city tax increment and the county tax increment. So all the improvements you see at the Bay happening now are paid for 50-50 by Sarasota County tax increment and the city tax increment. So we're in full cooperation on the improvements that are occurring now. When it came to the Performing Arts Center, the county opted out. They were not comfortable with what they were seeing, and they said, we're not going to commit at this time our increment. So we had half the money that we potentially might have. So we're going to have that discussion with the county because they are critical from a funding standpoint to generating the revenue to pay for the Performing Arts Center that's being envisioned by the foundation. Foundation is a not-for-profit group, been around for a long time, reformed itself. It was really in business to support the Van Wezel and done a great job. It reformed itself now to focus on the new Performing Arts Center. It is full of people who love the arts, they're advocates, and they have aspirations. and they're now coming to meet the budget. So we still have a little journey to go there. And it may take a start and stop path, but I think the possibilities are as high as they've ever been. We have the site, we have a funding source. We may not have it all, but we have a significant funding source, and we have a community that loves and embraces the arts. How many places would like to have that around the country? That a funding source, a site, and a community that supports the arts, that would be magical to many places. We have to be smart enough to figure out how to make it work. So I see that as one of my primary challenges over the next couple months. We'll need a decision, the county's in or the county's out. If it's out, we'll develop a plan B that we might be working on now quietly.
How about the implementation?
That can't move until we have a clear plan to go forward.
Okay.
So I mean, we've got to have a concept plan that the commission and the community can embrace, and a budget that we can realistically bring to bear. Because we have the cost of the facility, and then we have the operational cost every year once it's built. And for those of you who don't know, the Van Wezel's been running since I was a kid. And right now, it has generated every year a surplus. So right now, it's sitting on a very substantial surplus reserved to be used however the commission wants, but we're going to use that to help make the Van Wezel more storm resistant. We'll use a couple $1 million out of that. But it does generate money. It's one of the few public performing arts facilities you'll ever run into that is generating more money than it costs to run. It doesn't have to pay for land, and it has no debt. So those are huge things that help it balance its books on the positive side. But you have to admire Mary Benzel. If you know her, I don't know how she does it. I don't know how she understands this community and the shows that people will go to, but somewhere in the magic of her brain, she comes up with a program every year that people love. And if you've seen the flyer this year, it's pretty cool. I'm taking my grandkids to see the Grinch. So I mean, it draws people in. So you have to admire her ability to do that. Mary's not going to, she's younger than me, but she's not going to be here forever. So getting the operations right will be another challenge we have to have. It's all doable. Aspirations will have to meet budget fairly soon.
Dave, what about the county? What are their concerns, or what are their priorities, or how are they going to decide what criteria do they use to invest in this versus what else?
Wouldn't that be great if I could give you their criteria, their decision-making sheet? Wouldn't that be cool? That's an excellent question. I'm going to see the two of the key commissioners who sit on the Bay Park Improvement Board. Both, you probably know them, Mark Smith and Ron Cutzinger. Both smart guys, dedicated. They want the community to be its best. And I'll probably have a better understanding once I meet with them.
Given the county, the large percentage of county residents that participate in the Van Wezel, is there a way of alternative funding in sort of almost like how Bobby Jones is, where people from outside of the county would pay a higher ticket price or something of that nature to help facilitate that versus what the county or versus what the city's doing?
That's a great question. When I mentioned funding sources, I focused on the TIF, but there's other funding sources. There's ticket sales. And if it is a city-county project, we can have a multi-tiered ticket price, for in-county and out-of-county. If it's just a city project, we could still have a multi-tiered ticket price for in-city and out-of-city. And we can generate revenue. The city will have to incur debt to build a performing arts facility. That's just a reality. By the way, debt isn't bad unless you want to pay full cost today out of your cash pocketbook. Let the generations to come help pay for those long-term facilities. We do it with sewer plants, water plants, landfills. We do it with all kinds of stuff. And it makes sense for a performing arts center that'll be here for generations. So yes, there's an opportunity to use ticket prices to help finance that. But it's all got to make sense. the journey is aspirations and budget. I know I beat that to death, but I can't tell you how rocky that road to get those two things together is. So depending on who's in and who's out, how much we can afford, that's what we'll be able to bring to the commission and the community and say, here it is, here's a plan, here's the financing, here's how we can pay for it, here's how big it can be. Do you want to build it? So laying those foundation pieces that's my objective in the next 3 months, to try to get either the counties in or out, and we go to a plan B and begin to define the thing with the resources we have. In the meantime, Van Wezel's going to be there, and it's going to be working, and it's going to be putting on shows, and Mary's going to be bringing in 180,000 people a year to see a show, and they're going to leave happy. So, you know, we're not in too bad a shape while we work through this. In the future, can the Van Wezel, I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be there. You know, I don't think we're planning on tearing it down next week. So, and it'll still be purple. It just got repainted, in case you missed it. It got repainted. So it's even more purple.
Okay, moving along, any other board member questions? Peter, do you have anything?
You mentioned the state is in charge, and with the Live Local and so forth. There are a number of communities in the state, both counties and cities, that are challenging that
Right.
in the courts. Are you watching that to see how it's going to impact Sarasota?
We're definitely watching it. So for those of you who don't know, the state passed a very reasonable emergency management bill this year. And it's a lot of lessons learned from the storms about how to do rebuilding and how to issue permit. A whole bunch of good stuff was in that bill. Okay, this is Florida. It couldn't be that good. So at the end, they snuck in a couple things that no one ever really understood until it was out and passed. And one of the things they snuck in said that no local government can adopt any regulation on development that's more restrictive than existed prior to the storms. So you can't change your zoning code to affect new development that is more restrictive. You can't change your comp plan to affect new development that is more restrictive, and nor can you even propose or adopt anything that's more restrictive. So, you know, that put the state in charge for that.
Is there a sunset for those provisions?
Theoretically, it would sunset in 2027 unless we have another storm. Every time we have a storm, it can extend. So this is Florida.
But I think the challenge is that it takes over the home rule out of the Constitution that's in the state.
Right. It absolutely takes over the myth of home rule. I'm a cynic. I've been in government in Florida 31 years, and there is something called home rule, and it's embedded in our Constitution. It's in laws even. And whenever the state wants to, they walk all over it because they can. So they did pass that for us, and they passed several other bills for us. But then about a month and a half ago, they made the determination that any markings on roads or sidewalks that did not meet, I'll just call it the Green Book, that's the engineering standard for everything to do with roads and right-of-ways and so on, that didn't meet that standard had to be removed. And it had to be removed in a week and a half. That was in us. Now, that may not have bothered a lot of places. It didn't have any markings other than controls. We had hundreds of sidewalk art all over the place. And so, you know, first we talked with, it came through FDOT, and the way they said it had to be removed is, we will possibly freeze all your funding. They didn't say FDOT funding, they said all your funding. We get 60-some million dollars in state funding every year. This was an outright threat, and they even sent 2 letters to you know, like you'll send something and you'll underline it for emphasis. Well, they sent 2 letters to us for the emphasis. We talked to our neighbors. We talked to some communities that were going to challenge it. In any event, we decided that for what was at risk, we would comply with that order. And we removed all the sidewalk art. We even had to take up, my grandkids are grown up now, but I had 2 little girls, and you'd take them to Moat, and you'd walk from one building to the other, and they had turtles and manatees embedded in the sidewalk. They're gone. 2 little 10-year-old girls dancing on the turtles, gone. So sorry, I'm editorializing a little bit just to show you the whatever word you want to assign to it. So that's another example of the state being in charge. They use their funding leverage to make local governments adhere to what some would think was a political position. So, and there are other ways. There's been a series of laws in the last couple of years that have further and further eroded what we like to think of as home rule, and expect some more in the future. The governor has decided that he wants to eliminate or reduce property taxes. That sounds good. Who doesn't want lower property taxes? Well, they need to be the same people that don't want police and don't want fire and don't want EMS and don't want streets, don't want water and don't want sewers. I mean, that's what we do, is those things that make improvements in the community, they're funded to a large extent with property taxes. So the intrusion of the creation of the state, it kind of reminds me of the old city states in ancient times. They just kept growing and growing and imposing their authority over other places. So that's all I have to say on that.
Anybody else? I've got one. Okay. One of the things you said at the beginning of your remarks, Dave, is one of the roles you see is to make impacts in lives. And I think some of the things that DSCA has historically supported is that when you can marry it with economic stability. And one of the things, for example, connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
And connectivity is an overarching strategy or whatever. And I bring up 2 points. One, the Boulevard of the Arts and 41 intersection and such things as micro-mobility. This is an economic driver making things. And for those of you who haven't looked at the Bay Park in the last 10 days, you will be blown away by what they are doing. It is going to become, by the hour, more of a destination.
Right.
And that connectivity, both east and west, to 2,000 people who are going to live west. What are your thoughts about that intersection to start? Is there any movement on that?
So Boulevard of the Arts and US 41, State Road, US 41, Boulevard of the Arts, City Road. So everything we do at that intersection has to be done in coordination with FDOT, Florida Department of Transportation. And they actually have the final say on all traffic control features there at that intersection. And and that's legit. Their job is to move people in cars as efficiently as they can throughout the whole network in the state. So, and they're smart people. They do a lot to keep things moving as traffic volumes increase. So we've had a lot of discussions with them. So I've told you a lot of good things about FDOT. They make many of their decisions based on a crash report. A crash report is a summary of every accident that's happened at every intersection or stretch of road, in this case in Sarasota County. They do it all over the state. And this sounds terrible, but you get more money when you have more crashes, and they make more improvements when you have more crashes. Now, the logic of that is they work to make the dangerous places safer. So you can understand that. But our case that we're making is we're going to have these hundreds and probably thousands of people moving back and forth across your road now and in the future. And trying to get a crash-oriented operation to think about preventing is a little bit of a challenge. So we're fortunate to have a public works director, Nick, who many of you know, former long-term FDOT employee, and he's having a discussion with FDOT on around the timing of those lights, the problems with the cars turning, the pedestrians trying to cross US 41, not adhering to the lights or somehow being confused by the lights. So first thing we're going to try to do is work on the light timing, which doesn't cost FDOT much. They own the lights, we maintain them. We'll do everything we can to help them find a better sequence and maybe a couple more no turn signs to get the traffic a little better under control. So that'll be the first effort. We actually had a partial grant to raise that intersection, which is a method to slow traffic down. Whenever you encounter something on the road different than just a straightaway, you may not know it, but you tend to slow down. And so we were going to raise the elevation of that intersection a little bit. It would have slowed the traffic down and made it a little easier for pedestrians. That grant, FDOT would not fund their portion of it because it didn't meet the crash criteria for investment. Now there's one other, so we're talking about cars and pedestrians, slowing the cars down, but there's something you need to know about pedestrians. They'll cross anywhere. I mean, literally, you can have the flashing light right here and 15 feet away, rather than walk and push the button, which tells cars to stop. They'll try to figure out how to cross. So another thing we're looking for, which will not be popular, is a way to channel the pedestrians toward the actual flashing signal so that they cross in the crosswalk. If you could get everyone in the crosswalk, we could do a better job stopping the traffic, but it's hard to do. And I'm guilty of that. You're walking down the street, you want to cross, and you're like, oh, I can make this, and so that's a challenge. So we're looking at ways to maybe control the pedestrians a little bit too, but it's going to be, we're going to have to carry a pretty heavy load to get any significant money from FDOT to improve that intersection in the near term. So,
Dave, can you extend your comments to Fruitville Road between Washington and 41? What can be done to improve that, especially with the increased construction activity?
right. Yeah, that's kind of that's really messy, especially where the construction is. I agree with you. So if you look at that 15 years ago, there's better pedestrian crossing now, and there's a lot more pedestrians than there ever was in the past. And the city's looked at several things to sort of redesign Fruitville Road. That's a city road out to, I can't remember where it stops, and then it turns into a state road. Is it Orange? So there's a segment there that's a city road where we basically have most of the decisions. FDOT still influences it because we use some of their money in the maintenance of the roadway. But that needs some better pedestrian crossings there. The city has looked at a couple things on Fruitville, didn't move ahead with it a few years ago. Some of that will come back and we'll look at it again. As more and more is built in the Rosemary district, the pressures crossing there are going to be greater and greater. And it would not be a surprise to see some improved pedestrian crossings there than what we have now. They're better than they were 15 years ago. That was still not a happy place to cross, but it was a lot worse then.
Due to time, we've got time for one more question. Is there any more?
I've got one thing as well, not one thing, sort of something David had talked about though, is the whole micro mobility aspects of downtown, the Rosemary, this location here, since we live here in Broadway Promenade, but the ability to get downtown, we have the iRide thing, which I think was wonderful. Unfortunately, it wasn't, there was some hiccups to it that caused the issues, but bringing something like that back, or because, especially given the parking situation, if I don't have to drive downtown to park to go to a restaurant, that saves a parking spot and that traffic, if it can be handled with a 6-passenger vehicle.
And we see some of that with the Bay Runner now that runs out to the islands and it's free and it goes back and forth. Here's where aspirations and budget start to come together. We have a grant from FDOT to operate that, for example. That grant is expiring. the city would have to find somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 to keep every year increasing to keep that bay runner operating. So we're actually in discussions with the county as to whether they can actually run it cheaper than we can because they've got much bigger contracts with the same operator. So we're in discussions with them to see if we can reach an agreement, keep the bay runner operating at no charge. It's free, you can just get on it, and reduce our cost a little bit so they don't keep going up. The one consistent thing with all the options is they are expensive. Someone has to pay for it, whether it's someone has to pay for it. So it is a challenge, but there's lots of opportunities now with little small vehicles, like you mentioned, moving about. It does take a bit of planning, and depending on how you set it up, it can become part of a larger transit system, or it can be an independently operated thing. If it takes any federal money, it has to fall under the Sarasota County Transit Authority. And that's the one that runs Breeze and the Siesta Trolley and the paratransit service that you see around. So the federal money requires you to go through the local authority. Those options are open. We haven't really looked at them seriously in the last, that I can speak of, the last 4 or 5 months. But
Doesn't St. Pete have some systems that they're using?
I think they have that little, I'm not sure what to call it, little doodle bug that runs around there. And other cities have done different things on downtown. The Bay Runner does carry a lot of people.
Bay Runner's a hit.
And it carries a lot of people. It is the 5th busiest route on the county system. So it's not the busiest. That's the one that runs up to Bradenton and back. But it is the 5th busiest and growing. So, it's a pretty decent route. It carries a lot of people. I mean, thousands of people a month ride the Bay Runner. And it's free. Well, it's free to the rider. It costs the city a little over $1 million, and FDOT's paying $500,000. Their grant goes away, and then we would have to pick that up, and that's a year. So you can see how how expensive transit type things can be. But yes, but aspirations and budget. I'm kind of a downer on that, but I always got to bring those two things together.
Thank you, Dave. I think we're about out of time. And as I said, please stay if you are able and interested and see a little of what we do, or head out and solve some of these problems.
I'll hang around a while.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, Jamie, do we have our new full member?
We have
Yeah.
Gabriel Schaefer from Condo Member Associates. So this is your opportunity to come up and tell us a little bit about yourself. You can limit it to about a minute-ish. So where do you want me? How about up here? All right, tell us about what you do.
Sorry.
This working? Perfect. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for having me today. My name is Gabrielle Schaefer. I'm the Director of Business Development for Condominium Associates. So we are a full-service Florida-based association management company, and we've been in business since 1982. Our offices are in Sarasota, St. Pete, and Lough. So we are servicing just Florida. We're not a national company, but we are your medium-sized management company. We do service over 400 associations throughout the state, and we have about the same number of employees. So we do manage all forms of associations, but condominium is our level of expertise. Condo is our bread and butter. So if you are thinking about making a management company change, or perhaps you're self-managed and you have questions about partnering with a management company, I'm happy to speak with you. So thank you to the board for having us, and we look forward to building relationships here. Thank you so much.
So we do need.
Yeah, we do. Thank you. We do formally need a motion to accept.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
Can I just say
Yeah.
one little thing? I know we have quite a few of our associate members
Oh.
here that actually really warms my heart, because it's been a long time since this many people came. So just a reminder to everyone that's here, yes, condos make up a big part of our budget, but all those newsletters and the workshops that you guys love to see, these guys are the reasons we get to do that. So if you guys can stick around and hear them out, I promise they won't take very much of your time at the end. Okay.
And they may even help pour the wine or
They
things like that.
They have a lot of great businesses that I'm sure you guys could use or your condo could use. So definitely worth it.
And well, yeah, thank you for being here. Okay, thank you. Well said. The next on the agenda is a little update on our condo association survey. And I will tell you, I've looked at the work that Patrick Gannon and Bob have done, and it's just amazing. Patrick Gannon, are you able to speak and connect with us on Zoom?
He's got to unmute himself. Oh.
Patrick?
He's driving, I do know that.
Oh, he's driving.
Oh.
Okay.
Do my best, but I've been gone for.
Okay.
almost a month.
Why don't you just very quick overview of the survey and what's been
Well,
happening?
the survey, the survey, we had about a 60% participation in this year's survey, which is up a little bit from prior year, or the prior survey that we did 2 years ago, which is good. It definitely has shown a couple of trends. Obviously, this might surprise everyone, but all of the HOA fees have gone up over the last few years. That's been driven very heavily by the insurance. As far as what the insurance costs, I think it was almost over 100% over the 3-year or over the 3 surveys that we've conducted. It's a pretty hefty thing. The good news is that those increases have plateaued to a certain extent. So hopefully that will help all of us and our HOA fees and so forth. Those were 2 of the primary things as far as bringing out what's happening. I think that was the biggest takeaway that I had from it. David, you
No, and I, we're in the process of a final review of it, and I will tell you the time that Patrick Gannon has put into this and the comprehensiveness is just mind-blowing. So look forward to some more information on this, but this is, again, since we've done it 3 times, we're getting trend lines over every other year. So we hope it's a real value to our members and their boards and as they get into their budget season, but
and we like to thank everyone who actually did participate.
yeah, okay. So stay tuned for some further information on that. Jamie, or only one of you may talk, but would one of you give an update on the master plan? There's a meeting last night or the night before.
Yeah, we actually had a member, I'll have a few bullet points here, I'll make it quick. We actually had a member of the public come in and discuss a greater need for hearing younger voices, working voices, those voices who need affordable housing and don't want the city to shut down at 9 o'clock, noting that we are the ones who will be here 20 plus years from now. The ITN process was further discussed. Every member of the master plan signed conflict of interest documents. We needed to choose 1 member for the solicitation evaluation committee. That member that was selected was Melissa Laughlin, president of the RDA. Tiffany Nisbet was chosen as the alternate in case Melissa can't make it or something. And the committee scope and roles were reviewed.
Great. And the next meeting is it a month?
November 4th.
Oh, okay, so about a month. Okay. Moving on to city update, the city manager search, I think Dave covered that a little bit. There's not much to say. Search firm has been retained and kind of getting on with it. I do have one additional update, and that's about the downtown improvement district. I've been trying to forge a closer cooperation, for lack of a better word, with not that we haven't had it, but DSCA has now been invited as an agenda item
to provide quarterly updates on our activities at the DID meeting. So I'm looking for that as an opportunity to blend, in a sense, where DID's primarily focus, if you will, is on businesses, and DSCA's is somewhat more focused on residents, of how do those kind of come together. And I see a real great opportunity. So I'll be talking to you about, it's December 2nd, and if we maybe have 15 minutes on the agenda, a couple of us make remarks and what we want to say. So stick that in the back of your mind. Moving on, Arts and Cultural Committee. Ken, I know we talked about the Performing Arts Centers or.
So we don't need to talk about that, but the city has now approved the site plan for Florida Studio Theater's new building on First Street, which will be a multi-use building. It will have parking. It will have a new main stage. It will have 2 cabaret theaters. It will have a hotel. It will have apartments. So this is a model. And the best part is they have 2 major lead donors for the project. I don't know where they are on all their fundraising on it, but they're off to a good start. Last Saturday, I went to a concert of the Key Chorale at the Church of the Palms down on Bee Ridge. That group just blows me away in terms of the quality of the music that they create. I went to a collaboration they did with Circus Sarasota last year called Cirque des Voix, and it was unbelievably good too. I mentioned last month that I've been doing interviews for arts organizations in the county for the Arts and Cultural Alliance, and I interviewed Christine Caston, who's the CEO of the Venice Symphony, last week. Incidentally, she's sister-in-law of Heather Caston from the Chamber of Commerce. But it is amazing what is happening in South County, and I don't think we're aware of it. It's growing, and it's Welland Park that's doing it. And the Venice Symphony has discovered it is selling many more tickets. They have already sold 83% of their subscriptions for this season, and it hasn't even started. So they are doing very well. And they perform in the Venice Performing Arts Center, which has 1,100 seats, only 1,100 seats. So I said, if you're growing so rapidly, are you planning to build a new performing arts hall? And I was sworn to secrecy, so I can't tell you. That's it.
Okay, moving ahead, Jamie, on the events, our workshop.
Yeah, so our development workshop is going to be on 10/16. That's downtown development, community and voices, building bridges. Very excited that we have Steve Cover, we have Deanna Sada, Morgan Bentley, Eileen Walsh-Normile, Brenda Patton, and Sadek Omar. So we have a developer and a community voice and everybody in between. So we're very excited about that. It's going to be at the Sarasota Garden Club. So far, 2 weeks out, we have 72 signed up. We do anticipate a completely full house on this one. We do have a couple tables left. If you are a gold member and you want to purchase a table, just let me know, because next few days, I'm going to open it up to the silver members.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this panel
Yeah.
because we're trying to bridge that gap with the developers and the community. I think if you look back over the last 6 months, I'd like to feel there have been some successes and cooperations on the Saravella project, the Miramar, where the developers have been open to having community workshops. And we want to continue on that momentum to try and build bridges. So let's see how it works. I've got a, it's going to be. Okay. All right. Moving, Peter, what have you got for us on health and safety?
Okay, well, as you probably know, the month of September, from August 31st to October 1, gets to be a little bit in flux in trying to get people together. They don't answer my emails. They don't answer my telephone calls. for whatever reason. However, we don't stop looking at issues, and David and I had the opportunity, as we do once a month, to meet with the city's homeless outreach coordinator, who now is Shelley Legoski. Wonderful, wonderful person, man. She hit the road running. I mean, there was just no learning curve here at all. Every question we had for her, she had an answer. And I checked her answers, and they're all pretty good answers. But at any rate, we get that update. The population without shelter in the city is in flux, in changing. It's becoming a little different now, which we expect. But the good news is it seems to be either taking a back seat, not so obvious with any aggressive kinds of behaviors, but more behaviors of how can I get some help? And we've got a pretty good, not a pretty good, compared to other communities, we have a very good system in place to take care of people who not only need shelter, but they get wraparound mental health services. And then, of course, we have community watch walkers who are adopting homeless people with their dogs and but we're getting good information, and the problems being created by people without shelter that we used to see 5-10 years ago are not the same problems now. The problems now are trying to get them hooked up. We need to stop pregnancies with the police department. Our hot teams are getting reduced as they take their maternity leaves, and they're wonderful people, and they're filling back in. There's not a stop. The hot teams are still functioning. We have direct access to them. And through the community watch program now, we have direct contact for homeless issues through the hot teams and Shelley. We have also direct access to the 5 city departments that Hermino at Information Tech with the Click to Fix program, and our walkers are wearing that program out for environmental reasons. I know every broken sidewalk now in the downtown area. I have pictures and I have schedules of when they're going to be fixed, when the fountains are not operating, when they will. So we'll be improving that system and talking a little bit more about improving the quality of life for people downtown as we move along.
Great, thanks. On the transportation front, I guess that's me. I mentioned some recent successes in cooperation with developers. And I want to give a shout out to city staff. We had a situation over by the Hyatt, the median there, if you can picture that, where between Coulter Urban, city staff, and representatives of DSCA kind of came together, a little sausage making at times, but with, I think, a good result that's going to result in saving 4 mature oak trees in the median and putting 40 more feet or so in the median. But I think it's illustrative of trying to work and finding a path for working with, and hats off to Coulter and staff for that. 41 intersection we've talked about. In your backup material was a so-called white paper I took as a draft, but I won't belabor that for a moment. That was just some of the rationale. Since then, I've gotten crash data that I think I've shared with city staff, and it is, look, let's be frank, it wasn't as much as I thought, but I think, as Dave indicated, predictively, if we can get ahead of the curve, because the gestation process on some of this stuff is multi-years. So can we vision what it might be like? And maybe somebody does some AI models or something like that. I don't know. There is a new District 1 secretary for FDOT, who I believe has been in the saddle about 3 months. So he, I know, and Commissioner Aaron Kotz spoke at the MPO meeting the other day. So hopefully there's an opportunity, shall we say, to engage with him on that issue. McCowan Senior Housing Project, I spoke at the 10 by 10 meeting and used some illustrations of that. That's about a 96 unit senior housing project at the intersection there, which is very exciting. And as I say, I keep mentioning the Rosemary.
of its dwelling units, about 28% is attainable or lower income housing. That's the highest in the city. And we want more. It's a yes in my backyard. We know Lofts on Lemon 2 is now under construction. So hats off to the Housing Authority, and let's try and work with them. One of the topics there that is on my personal radar screen is public parking and trying to find a path there for, and I know, Dave, there's a parking study that should be available possibly any day. So let's see, my challenge is what can we do collectively there to build on it for economic sustainability, as we've now got approaching 2,000 restaurant seats in the Rosemary. Moving on, Patrick Blanton, are you there and able to be with us on Zoom?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, boy, you
You
are
can hear
here.
me.
That's good. Okay. Would you, the Special Events Department has postponed this coming to the City Commission until November 3rd, but can you kind of tell us where we are as DSCA? I know you had materials in our backup materials for the group to look at, and there probably has been some misinformation or whatever you want to call it floating around. Can you update us, including kind of setting the record straight of where we think we are as a board?
Yeah, well, so the board has not made any representations at this point. Okay, so some people have said that we have, but that's not true. So in part, this letter is to, as you say, set the record straight. So big picture is a bunch of things are proposed on the red line that we definitely like and agree with. And let's be clear, we're talking about nighttime block parties, not street fairs, art fairs, parades. We're not talking about that at all. We're talking about nighttime block parties, and there's been several changes that we think will make a huge difference. And absolutely clear, we are not tying our recommendations don't tie the special events permit to the sound ordinance. Okay, they're two separate things. Now, one thing to be clear is there is something called a special sound permit that's part of the special events application. It's basically a formality, but it allows the event organizer to not adhere to any sound ordinances. Okay, so it sets up its own sound ordinance in effect. And that's what our comments are related to, because currently it says you can play up to 100 decibels, although we know that events have gone way beyond that. And at some events, the police had to unplug the amplifiers. So we're trying to get something that's better. There was something proposed, which was 85 decibels, not not touching bass or low frequency sound, which I think a lot of people are saying is really the big issue. But they're silent on that. And they're also saying this 85 decibels, you got to measure that no shorter than 100 feet from the source of the sound, which actually, in effect, allows you to play a louder sound at the source than 100 decibels. So, we're then there's something on street closures. We've noticed around the state of Florida, most people, the best practices, they require explicit police department, fire department sign-offs, and we're concerned with the increased density taking place in the downtown that should be sharpened. we are concerned about enforcement because even though people have grossly gone over the 100 decibels, there's been no penalty paid. So we would like to see some form of enforcement. And this is also very common throughout Florida. Quickly, tear downs. So special events have to close at 11 instead of midnight, excluding New Year's Eve. But tear down activities, there's no regulation. And in past years, it goes to 4 in the morning. So we're trying to think of maybe that should be a little earlier than 4 in the morning. And then the last thing is basically all special event permits and the exemption to the city sound ordinance are all done administratively. That's not done anywhere else in Florida that I could see. And the point is, there are some special events where we feel the elected officials should determine whether it's in the best interest of the residents, of the businesses, the out of county, out of city visitors, et cetera. There has to be a balancing act, and and when it's done administratively, that just means that's a check the box. You know, they don't really have any authority to interpret the rules differently. If you technically have filled in the application correctly, you too get a special event. So we propose, you know, if there's sale of alcohol, late night, use of city streets, large size, there are impactful special events that we feel, at least the group that's been working on this, require city commission approval. Now, the red line district does have certain conditions that would trigger a city, but they're basically they have no bite. I mean, they don't exist. Like, you're going to close streets for more than 4 days. That doesn't happen. So that would trigger a city commission, but that's silly, you know.
Okay.
Or if there's a special event that occurs more than twice a year, but none of the non-city co-sponsored special events occur more than twice a year. There's only one Halloween event. There's only one Cinco de Mayo event. But there's some
Peter?
language that says, oh, well, if you do that, then you can
Okay.
trigger.
Okay, so Peter, if I, in the interest of time, so just big picture, we've got a month. What one of the commissioners suggested to us is that we look at the proposed ordinance, and there is a red line, and then there's a second red line. And shall we say, we come up with a blue line of some of our specific areas. As I understand, there are essentially 5 areas, relatively minor, in my opinion. Well, minor.
Is
major,
there
minor.
a second red line?
There, as I understand, there's a second. Well, whatever there is, it's gone to the legal department. The city's
Yeah, that's
attorney's
a July 31st version.
Okay.
There's one red
So
line.
process.
One red line available to the public.
Right. Okay. Process wise, we want to get the proposed ordinance and submit our blue line comments. We feel our comments are measured, support a vibrant downtown, and put some guardrails, if you will, on something that has been significantly improved by staff. There's no question. So
Yeah.
punchline is we got about a month. Stay tuned. The board will see what our working group has in order and see if everybody's kind of on side with that. So I think we're making progress. Thank you, Peter. New developments, just quickly, some of us are following the Zenith project is coming to the DRC on the 15th, I believe. So it's moving ahead. The Adagio, as I was at the DRC this morning, and to Dave's point about who's running this thing, DSCA has suggested
to the developer to hold a voluntary community workshop. We have not heard back. City staff have recommended on 3 occasions that the developer hold a city workshop, and as of 5 hours ago, there was silence on that. So we're looking for a way of engagement. This is a weird one because we've got the convergence of live local and city zoning. So we're on somewhat of new turf here, and this is concerning about the process and how the community can interject. The 1260 Palm is to go to a magistrate for de facto mediation, and there's no date on that yet. So those are 3 that I have somewhat updates on. Okay, any questions? Okay, Bob, to you for the Bay Park.
Well, again, you actually have been more involved with that in the last month than I have because I've been out of town. But obviously, they've made major headways on front along with the promenade that they're putting out there, and that is, I think, supposed to be completed momentarily. And same thing with the dock. That's supposed to be done by the end of the year now, I guess, is what they're talking about, and that's made some inroads on that as well. So it's they're just making major.
Yeah, so come on out to the October events. They're going to have a bunch. And then the other, as I
There's
understand,
88 events scheduled for
Yeah.
the third anniversary. So yeah,
and I think planning for the restaurant out there is in the works.
in the works, as I understand. They're pretty much getting that done with the Venice Pier people.
Right. Okay. Moving on to CCNA. CCNA has a meeting on Saturday. I will be attending. Other than if there's any input on me as our representative to CCNA that aren't the obvious, please let me know. And everybody, guests are welcome. And I would encourage you to come. It's quite interesting to see roughly 30 neighborhoods and what's on their mind. We are a bit of an outlier, TSCA, with almost 25% of the population and 7% of the land area, and our demographic and whatever. It starts at 9 at the Garden Club. Rosemary District Association, I've been in contact with Melissa Laughlin when it comes to the Boulevard of the Arts in 41, because they have as much interest or more. That's all I've got. Platinum Associate updates.
A lot today, so you guys can hang tight and hear everybody out. I think we lost Michael from Excentria. So next up, I would say, you guys, you have a minute, but if you could keep it to at least like no over 1 minute, under it would be great. There's a lot of you guys here. Leanne, why don't you come up and tell us a little about your company?
My name is Leanne. I'm from Lake Tite Roofing. We're a full service roofing company. We've been around from 1943 only in Florida. So we do anything from small gutter repairs to helping you get to a new roof or extend the life expectancy on your roof. So we're here to be your partner and fix anything really. So thank you so much for having us.
All right, and next up, I'll pass it over to Rebecca. KW.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rebecca with KWP&C. That stands for Kaplan White Property Management and Consulting, not Keller Williams. We are based off of 6 CPAs. We founded our company, so our basis is financials, accounting, strong foundation for the community. We just partnered with the Mark, so we're really excited about that, and we look forward to working in the area and serving, our brand of service and our expertise and elevated service that comes with it. So thank you, everybody.
You want to pass that to Annika, still on Platinum? Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Glad to have you back, Annika.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be back. My name is Annika Mantius. I'm with TWI Reconstruction. We're a reconstruction company focusing on exterior restoration, from concrete to paint jobs. We have a lot of projects in St. Pete Beach and Longboat Beach. So if there's anything we can do, we'd love to help, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm actually going to skip to gold since Kyle's sitting right there. So Kyle, if you could tell us a little bit about RTI.
Yep, I'm Kyle Godo with RTI Insurance. We're an independent agency who works exclusively with condo and HOA associations serving about 200 across Florida. We like to offer a true white glove service to all of our clients. And I know most of you already have relationships in place. I'm not here to upend any of those, just happy to be a second set of eyes and a resource for any questions. Thank you.
I'll have you go ahead and pass us over to Stacy. We're just gonna go right down the row here. Stacy Cole with Fine Properties.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy Cole, real estate advisor with Fine Properties. I'm just here, pick my brain with what's going on with real estate. Still not great. The interest rates are still high. The condo market isn't great. You know, hey, wonderful life.
But you know what? I've got some great news for anyone who's attending the workshop. Stacy will be bartending, so that's fun.
I'm a great bartender.
Now everyone loves you again.
That I will do.
All right, Adrian, tell us what's going on with Hotwire.
Recently, I guess a couple of months ago, we are the next generation of fiber optics to your unit, directly to your unit. We make that investment in your property, and the experience of internet connectivity is unlike any other, and our customer service and support is unlike any other. For those that are under an agreement, please get your hands on that agreement. Look at the expiration date. We like to talk to properties about 36 months prior to that expiration date. So anything that is sooner than that, please get with me as soon as possible. Love to help. The service is great. And our fiber is right up 41, downtown Sarasota, all the way to throughout Longboat Key and beyond.
Thank you. Last but not least, Tony, I think I saw something in the server. Did you guys get to blow up things with the police department?
We did actually. We
Amazing.
It was kind of fun.
Or
Yeah, I'm Tony Britt with the Brookie Yacht Club. We actually, as Jamie mentioned, our club is in the process of being prepared for demolition, which will be happening the week of October 13th. We're working really, really closely with the HOA on Bird Key to make sure that our good neighbor policy is in effect, as opposed to simply words on paper. And it actually pays huge dividends to us because they love us, which is wonderful. And it's a partnership. Yes, we had the SWAT team in from Sarasota's finest a few weeks ago. And our general manager, Tammy Hackney, had reached out to, there's an officer who often checks on the club and would go around the island. And over the last year or so, you know, they've gotten to know each other a little bit. And he mentioned that the club was being ripped down, and she offered to the police department, and they came in for a full day training exercise with their SWAT team, their canine squad. They did a breach practice, they call it, where they put little bombs on door jams and blow them up. And it was covered by ABC7, which was pretty cool. The Observer had a huge story on it. And the whole idea was to kind of give back to the community a little bit. I mean, it's going to get ripped down anyway. If it can be of some use to somebody, which it was, it was a lot of fun to watch, actually.
I bet.
And we had a really good time, so it was kind of nice. So, thank you.
And you guys, I had a lot. Oh, and you know what? I do think, sorry, I think we have, we did, and I think they're gone. Is that Fred Grady? I can't tell. And then there was also, yeah, I don't know if that's Fred. George Root was on here, but I don't think I see him anymore. No. Okay. Well, I gave you guys 10 minutes and you did so much under that. I'm so proud of you. It's awesome.
Okay, Dave, thanks again for coming. I think the one thing that the home rule situation and how to navigate that, I mean, that is concerning. As you know, DSCA has long been an advocate of more community workshops required. We're doing all we can to encourage developers and to show developers the advantages of engagement with the community. And there have been some recent successes with the Miramar, the Zenith, but we keep trying. So with that, I'm very happy to say we're ending 5 minutes or so early, and the bar opens 5 minutes earlier. So let's consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you.